coming up on today's
if they're changing
episode?
businesses every couple of years, there's a good chance they're one of those guys that's a good contractor, good enough, but has no idea how to run a business. So maybe they owe back taxes. Maybe they're running from somebody. I mean, I hate to say it, but legit happens where people are just like, hey, I just don't want to be this business anymore. And they run away from the job that they already took money on.
This is the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Do you have questions about an upcoming exterior contracting project? We've got answers. Welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Your questions answered by the pros you trust. My name is Cole. I'm part of the marketing team at Pro Exteriors. And joined, as always, today we have Aaron Rogers, who is the owner and president of Pro Exteriors. Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Cole. How about you?
I am doing great. I don't have a planned answer this week. And then you asked me how I was doing.
For 600 miles away, you sound fantastic, by the way.
Thanks. Hey, so it's always a special week when we have Aaron on the show, but this is extra special because we have two of our exterior specialists with us. We have Brad Wozlovec and Keith Brock. Gentlemen, thank you for being a part of this. I thought we would get started today by just allowing you each to introduce yourselves. You can share as much or as little as you want. If you want to share a little bit about what you do on the team, how long you've been a part of it, you can share a little bit about your family life. If you want to share your hopes and dreams, anything like that. I just want our audience to know who it is that they're hearing from the day. Brad, why don't you get us started? Could you just share a little bit about who you are?
Sure. So I've been here just about 4 years now. I've been working primarily roofing, siding. I do a lot of decks. The joke around here is I kind of became the deck guy, but I enjoy it. And at home, I am married, been married for 6 years now. And we've been together about 11. We have 7 cats. And I always say we, because I think if a guy had 7 cats, that might be a little strange, but a couple, not so much. But we don't have any children together. I do have a son from a previous relationship that he's almost 21. So whenever I tell people that, they're a little shocked at my age, I think, which, I always take that as a compliment. But no, I really like what I do here, and I love interaction. I've been in sales and in-home sales in some form for about 15 to 20 years, and just really enjoy working here. So
cool. Yeah, audience, if you ever get a chance to work with Brad, you will find out that he tells it like it is. He doesn't want to sugarcoat things. He wants the homeowner or the customer to have the full understanding of what the project is, but he's also not going to lie. He's going to tell it like it is. And I appreciate that about you, Brad.
Thank you.
Keith, you can't steal any of Brad's answers. Okay. Could you share just a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Well, I have to steal one answer because I actually...
You have 7 cats too?
I do not, but I have been working here almost 4 years. I actually started a week before Brad did. So as far as that, I did have to steal that.
So you're one of those twins. It's like, I'm older than my brother.
I didn't want to bring it up, but yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm sorry, but as far as experience, I would say I have more customer service background. Been doing that for 10 plus years. At home, I am married. Been married about 15 years. And if I'm wrong, she'll let me know. I do have 3 girls, Audrey, Grace, and Hannah. And we recently have added a new family member. His name is Ace, who is a puppy, a golden doodle.
A golden doodle.
And it's been quite a handful.
I did not know that about you. I've got, you can't see him, but we have our mini golden doodle taking a nap down here off of camera. They're a lot of fun, but yeah, they can be a handful.
They're a lot of fun, but it's been quite fun trying to train them.
Yeah. Well, if you ever get a chance to work with Keith, you'll know that he, much like Brad, he's a super honest dude, caring feller.
Feller.
Yeah.
Never heard that one in a while.
Feller.
He's a pretty good feller.
Yeah.
There's the Kentucky, his whole dialogue changes.
Yeah.
Didn't take long.
I'm waiting for the first y'all to drop just naturally.
Oh, I've been married to a Kentuckian for almost 17 years, so it's definitely in my vernacular.
Are you fixing to do anything yet? Are you fixing to go down the creek? Anything like that yet?
No, my son has learned the phrase "jeet yet," Jeet apostrophe Yet. Did you eat yet? So he's been saying "jeet yet."
Oh,
A bunch. Yeah, a lot of fun. All right, gentlemen, y'all know that
There you go.
each week on the episodes, we tackle a question that either we've been asked by one of our customers in the past, or it's a question that we've asked as a consumer ourselves. And then we have an honest conversation in hopes that when we leave the episode, we know more about that topic than when we began. So today's question is this. It's not super succinct. It's kind of meandering. I haven't been able to shorten it yet, but when searching for a contractor to hire, what are some red flags that I ought to be looking out for? So again, when searching for a contractor, what are the red flags that I need to be aware of? Here in a second, I'm going to turn it over to you, Aaron. But I thought maybe we would just share some of those red flags, some of the things to be mindful of. And then if you guys have any stories of things that you've seen on job sites, maybe some cleanup that we've gone in to do, I would love to hear some of those. But Aaron, if you want to kick us off and get started, I'm just going to be kind of a fly on the wall and listen to what you guys have to share.
Okay, sounds good. So we've been in business for, this is year 20. So obviously in year 20s, you learn quite a bit about, the red flags that people experience. And still some to this day are very surprising that these red flags come up on the front end and people still choose to move forward with that contractor. But there's a lot of things to list. So I'm just going to start with one that tends to happen kind of more often than you would expect, but an extremely vague contract. Our contracts are typically 10 plus pages long. We try to be as descriptive as we possibly can. A vague contract, very seldom has brands listed on it. It may not have sizes listed on it, but these are the things when you're in the middle of a project, depending on the scope of the project, these things can be a very drastic issue in the end. If you're doing a bathroom, you could be expecting a 48-inch vanity and you get a 24-inch vanity, which should have been a double sink, could be a single sink. All these little things like just having a super vague contract is one of those things that oftentimes ends up costing you as the consumer more money. I know you guys have come across it multiple times, specifically like with roofing, with decks and everything else we come across. Ours is a 10-page contract and the other person is literally a 1-page, one-sided contract. And, it's, yep, we're going to replace your roof. There's the price. There's the down payment. Sign right there. So what are some of the things that you guys see in regards to vague contracts?
To build off of that, the vagueness of it obviously is a pretty clear cut thing. We definitely put brands on where we can. I mean, some things don't have necessarily need it, but for roofing and specifics, if you say you're going to put ice and water shield on the roof, there is vast difference between the quality just in that one product. And if your roof has 20 or 30 products going up, that can make a huge difference right away for you as far as protection and cost.
Huge difference.
So to make an example of it, so if you sign a contract that just says, say, ice and water shield for your roof, you may think you're getting what they showed you as this really high quality thing, and then you get out there and it's the most generic thing in the world, and it costs them, I would say, a third of what the good stuff costs, and they're just profiting that, even though you think you're getting the good. So
yep.
any specificity in the products and what the company is delivering is huge for the homeowner to see and to know they're actually getting what they paid for. That's the biggest glaring thing that I've seen as far as being vague on a contract.
And with things like ice and water, I mean, you can also be vague and not necessarily the actual product you're using, but it can be vague as far as where it's being installed.
The application, exactly.
We put ice and water all over the place.
Yep.
I mean, the entire roof has one big perimeter of ice and water, essentially. So having a contract that says we're going to put ice and water here, 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 and here, and then taking it one step further to say we're going to put 36 inches of ice and water here, we're going to put 48 inches of ice and water here, 20 inch by 20 inch here. Those are the little details that not only let the homeowner know what they're getting for their money, but it also lets them know when they're look at the actual application, the day the guys are there installing the product, when they look up and they go, oh, wait, I was told I was getting 48 inches there, not 36 inches. So it gives them the opportunity to know that they're ultimately getting what they paid for, and gives them the opportunity to kind of have a little bit more clarity.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that product in particular, again, to avoid making the whole episode about ice and water shield, but it's a big black strip. It's one of the hardest things to miss. So if I go in and I review your project and you go with us and I tell you we're going to put it on the rakes, on the eaves and the valleys and around penetrations, and you go out and you only see it in one spot, that's going to be a pretty glaring problem. So that's why we're so specific. And then when you do walk out to take a look at the project underway, you're going to know that we're living up to what we agreed to before we even signed.
Yeah.
And again, there's more than just that product. That product's honestly, it's very easy to point out because it is a huge black strip on your roof. But it's one of those things where, if you're not specific in the products, the language, your warranty is a big one. So I know as far as roofing goes, we're one of the only nationally backed warranties around here. So when we offer you that, it means that if we're no longer around for whatever reason, you don't miss out. You're not paying for something you're not inevitably going to have a benefit from. And that goes to kind of another red flag that I was thinking of is the years in business. So it's one of those not so well known things, but a lot of small businesses are out of business in the first 7 to 10 years. Yeah. The vast majority of them. So if you have someone that like us that's been around going on 20 years now, we're in our 20th year. That we have the knowledge to stay in business and to do the job correctly, because obviously if we were bad at it, we wouldn't still be here. But the bigger, deeper meaning behind that is there's a lot of people that are good at what they do and not so good at the business side. You could have someone come out that's an excellent roofing guy, an excellent flooring guy, an excellent painter, but has no idea how to run a business. So he could be very good at the trade without the business side, and it doesn't really work out for him. Whereas to really find a good blend of both of those and to find the right people doing the right thing in that company, that's how you stay in business a long time. So.
Which is one of the things in this business specifically is when people are really, really good at the trade, they think, well, why would I work for somebody else? I can make more money. I can have more freedom, more time. I'm going to try and hang my own shingle. And, like you said, if they're not good at the business, most contracting business, I think it's 90% fail in the first 5 years. I want to say it's like 70% of the last 10% of those businesses fail before year 10. And then when you talk about, companies that have been in business for a very long time, have you been through a recession? Or more kind of current, have you been through a COVID?
Yeah.
So, we look at businesses that have been around for, say, 5 to 10 years, and then we go into kind of an economic downtime. A lot of businesses don't make it through the other side, or they start to cut corners to kind of maintain margins and kind of keep things kind of where they're used to. And those are things that we on the back end as other contractors, we know that stuff, but it may not be something that you guys look at. So, but yeah, Keith, so what do you think is another red flag?
I would say another red flag would be as far as, what kind of payment the contractor is asking for.
Okay.
Whether it be, if they're asking more than 50%, I think that's a little bit too much. Ourselves, I know we ask for a third down for the deposit itself.
Yep.
But if they're asking for more than 50%, there's no need for them to have that much money up front.
Yeah.
In order to start the project itself.
Yeah. So when somebody's asking for, say, more than 50% of a project, why? So, most legitimate contractors, we want to use your money to finance the project. We don't always want to use our money. But realistically, we have credit accounts with most of our suppliers. Almost every business is going to have a credit account. And if we have, current accounts and we have good relationship with suppliers, we don't need all your money up front. We don't always want to, as the project goes along, we don't want to take all that money out of our pocket. We kind of want you to fund the entire project. But yeah, why do you need 50% or more? And then, there's also some states have laws as far as what you can take as a down payment.
Yeah.
Maryland, for instance, you have laws where you can only take, X amount. If the project is under a certain dollar amount, you can only take, up to X amount. So the first question I would ask is like, you want 50% or, on some occasions you want more than 50%. Why do you need that much to do this project? So, then it goes into, are they solvent? Are their credit lines run thin? Their relationships with their bank, their suppliers, those are things that those are huge red flags, I think.
Yeah. One of the analogies I use for that, and I love telling stories. Those of you who have met me know that if you let me, I'll take up the entire appointment with just telling stories. But if you ask for that much money up front for a down payment, it's not that much different than meeting someone on a first date and immediately asking to marry them. Now, does it happen? Sure. But you haven't built that level of trust yet. You haven't really built that relationship yet. So if you ask someone to jump in with both feet and they just met you, there are people that do it. Then there are people that have a successful interaction, but there are a lot more that don't. Yeah. And I know we all have friends, or God forbid it happened to you yourself, where you have a horror story of some service being done at your house where you overpaid and you didn't get what you wanted, or God forbid they never showed up. So that's another thing that we do is like, look, we take an appropriate amount for a down payment so that we can have some skin in the game and everybody's on the same page and we're still on a level playing field. And then when we get out there, we don't ask for the rest of the money until the job is finished. So it makes sense. It's like, it's a common sense thing to me. You don't need a ton up front. Like Aaron said, if our business accounts are up to date, we're not paying cash. We're at the level where we can move on and have a nice backlog. We don't need any of that. We just want to make sure that you're involved, we're involved, we're all in the same field, and everybody still feels the same and feels good with each other.
Skin in the game is a great way to put it.
It really is. Yeah.
Your deposit is not necessarily funding the entire thing. It's not always needed in order to complete a project, but it's your commitment.
Right.
It's you saying that I trust you and I'm agreeing to pay this amount because I trust that you're going to do it. So it's you having skin in the game, which I think is a great way to run a business.
And from a practical sense, from the homeowner side, it's a lot of unseen things. So we're going to sign a contract. We're going to come back. There's going to be a lot of work that's done. Office staff, there's going to be ordering done. There's going to be planning done. So it's not just money to hold just so that you're beholden to us. There are literally things happening that you're paying for essentially. Yep. And it's I'll be honest, I've heard it from a lot of people over the years, just on the customer side. When you sign that contract for whatever problem, because a lot of times we don't get people that are, they've been planning for a while. A lot of times it's a shock to them to have this big project, where there be your siding has issues or your roof, God forbid, leaks, something like that, where you have a sort of a shock. And then you come and you hire somebody. When you sign that contract and you pay the deposit, in your mind, mentally, your project's fixed, even if it takes a little bit of time for us to get out and actually do it. So your life becomes easier instantly if you've paid a little bit. If it's like a psychological thing at that point.
Yeah. So what if they come in and they're like, you know what, I don't need a large down payment, but I would like it if you pay me in cash. Keith, red flag, not red flag?
I would say red flag. Okay. I mean, if you take the cash, what receipt do you have? What's to stop them from just taking that cash?
I'm going to handwrite your receipt.
Oh, even better.
Yeah,
great. Because that has meaning.
Yeah, I'm going to handwrite that receipt for you, so you've got this record that's got my Johnny Hancock on it. Yeah, so we're good. Yeah, that's safe.
Yeah, very safe. No, what's from stopping them from ever hearing back from them again if you give them the cash? There's nothing there for them to stick with the project itself.
Yeah, and then it very much becomes a kind of a he said, she said. When you go to court, not having some sort of electronic record of, a check or a credit card or what have you.
Or even less so, let's say you hand them $5,000 and they say you only gave them $4,000.
Yeah.
There's no proof of that. It's scary. Now, and that being said, if you feel more comfortable as a customer paying cash, so be it. Just make sure it's well documented.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely, if they ask for it, or more specifically, which I've seen, if they say, hey, I'll give you a big discount, that's a huge red flag. I'll give you a massive discount if you pay cash. Something shady is going on there. And that's just indicative of a larger problem in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Most legitimate businesses in reality do not deal in cash. Do we have customers that was like, yeah, I plan on paying cash? Yeah. Are there ways to successfully negotiate a contract with somebody paying 100% in cash? Yes. But if you've ever been to a casino, or if you've ever seen a movie about a casino, or ever seen a show, what have you, they're going to take that cash and they're going to count it out on the table so that all the cameras in the sky can see it. I highly suggest, if you choose to pay cash, you either record it when they're literally counting it out in front of you. If they choose to just take the wad that you give them and put it in their pocket, if they're not worried about counting it, that's even bigger. Yeah. That's a huge red flag. Yeah. But yeah, count it out in front of each other. Have at least some sort of photo record of the money laid out in front of them, so you have your proof to say that, yeah, I did pay them in cash. But yeah, we have customers every once in a while that want to pay in cash. It's people that they rely very heavily on they feel confident with like, I've got this amount of cash sitting in my home. They don't like putting their money in the banks for,
It's not a problem.
But it's just a difference if the contractor is pushing for wanting to get the cash versus the customer wanting to pay cash.
100%.
Yep. It's and like I said, as long as you do it, just as long as it's well documented, you're going to feel. But everything we're saying today ultimately comes back to trust and building trust.
Yeah.
A lot of the projects that are done with a contractor are done after a very short time speaking and meeting with that contractor, no matter what the industry is. So it's all about building trust. And if I give someone a wad of cash for my down payment because it's my choice as a customer, I'm going to say, count it out. We're shooting a picture. I'm probably going to take a video at this point because everybody's camera is on their phone, the video, picture, whatever.
Yeah.
Just document it. That's all it takes because that way you should have a record of it.
Agreed. Okay. Big contracts, large down payments, cash down payments. What if the bid is just seems so outlandish? And when I say outlandish, I don't mean crazy expensive. I mean, what if their bid comes in and say, I've got 3 other bids that are all in the $15,000 to $20,000 range, and they're in the $10,000 range. To me, that's a huge red flag.
It's a huge red flag, yeah.
And I think most people can kind of see, like, if the average of the other estimates are this, and you've got this one coming in low, common sense says like something is missing, or there's a reason why that guy is ridiculously low. So, it can kind of be the catalyst for some additional questions, or you do have people that will instantly go, "Ooh, I only have to pay 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do the 10." Oftentimes you're going to be left with like, no warranty, poor install. You may get pushed to, the furthest end of the schedule.
You're
Tons
missing
of
something.
There's a reason why that bid is so low. Most contractors in an area all kind of have a pretty good idea of where their competitors are at price. So like all of our main competitors, for the most part, we're all pretty much neck and neck price wise. We all, for the most part, can offer you a similar warranty most of the time. And then it's going to come down to the little differentiators that kind of make a difference. But price wise, most people should all kind of be in the same ballpark. We always use the term apples to apples.
Mm-hmm.
If you do an apples to apples comparison of the different contracts and pricing, your pricing should come back pretty similar. But yeah, so ridiculously low contracts, or in some rare cases, super, super high pricing. If everybody else is at 15 and they're at 25, that's also a red flag.
Yeah, I mean that's an obvious one, and usually, and I've heard from customers a lot of times if they do get one of those, it usually just goes right in the trash anyway. But the super low one, when you have a couple other that are real close to each other, like within $1,000, I would say that's going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've heard from people was, when I say, hey, and I not to pat myself on the back, but a lot of times I'll have the level of trust. I'm like, hey, do you want to get that bid real quick and we'll review it? And we look over it right there at their kitchen table, and I'm like, well, they're missing this, they're missing this, they're missing this, and it starts to build up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
More specifically, because obviously we're heavily in the roofing industry. What I've seen more often than not is if a house has skylights on it and they're 20 years old. You may not know this as the general public, but skylights that are 20 years old, that's a different model skylight. So you can't get a kit to stop it from leaking when you replace the roof. So there are certain contractors out there. Some of them have a very good quote unquote reputation in the public. And they will intentionally leave the skylights off, and then hidden in their fine print says if it leaks around the skylight, they're not responsible.
Yep.
Well, you're going to look at that and think, okay, this is a good reputable company. This other guy's a good reputable company. Why is this guy $4,000 less? And every time I hear that, I'm like, we have 4 skylights. And it's like the first thing that pops in my head. It's like they're obviously not doing, well, no, they said they're going to do it. And then you look at the contract and it'll say salvage flashing kit or salvage sky. It'll say something that's sticking out that you may not notice because you're a customer. You don't see it every day.
And a lot of times they won't warrant that area.
Exactly. Yeah. So when it does leak, they'll say, oh, sorry, if you look at the fine print on page 20, way down line item number 25A, it's something crazy. And it's like, you're never going to read all that.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, again, building trust. When you have something that sticks out, ask the guy that you're like, look, I know I just met you, but I feel comfortable with you. Show me why this is different.
Yep.
And that's a lot of times it's, again, it all goes back to building trust. It's the whole thing that we do is building a good relationship. You're not necessarily buying a roof or buying a siding project. You're building a relationship with the company you choose. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many people I've done their roof, come back, just even in 4 years, come back and done a deck or come back and done their windows. There's no shopping process at that point because you have such a good experience with the first one that you reach out to them and say, hey, I know you do this other service. Can you come out this as well?
Yeah, I agree. Leaving skylights, a 20-year-old skylight on a brand new roof is like, yeah, you buy a brand new car, but you're like, you know what? The tires on that car are still good. You know what? I'm going to keep the tires. Can you put those tires on my new car? It's those little things, but it can be several $1,000s.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you figure every, smaller normal size skylight's $1,000, you got a couple of skylights on there. It's $2,000-$3,000. It's going to be a difference in that bid. And, most of us are pretty good at sales. So talking to a homeowner and telling them that, there's nothing wrong with them. Are they leaking currently? No, you don't need to replace them.
There's a reason why they're not leaking because you haven't disturbed them.
Yeah.
So you got there scraping the old shingles off.
Right. We're about to remove, 2 tons, 3 tons worth of material from your thing. And, it's the first time this has been done since the original house was built. That skylight's going to move around. There's no warranty on that skylight anymore through the manufacturer. And the second that we touch it, we're liable for it unless our contract, going back to the vague contracts, specifically states like we don't warrant the skylights if they leak. So why take that chance? Why go through the headache of a potential issue when you know that those skylight kits aren't made anymore? You're going to have to salvage the old flashing. It's already got nails in it. Removing flashing and removing shingles around flashing is not an easy process. So it very rarely ever comes off in a way that most professional contractors would reuse that flashing. So yeah, huge red flag.
Also beware of false confidence.
Yeah.
You get your roof replaced. Let's say you go and reuse the old skylights, you get your roof replaced and 6 months goes by and they don't leak. It's going to take a minute. So just be aware that a roof, I always like to boil it down. A roof really has one purpose when you boil it down: shed water. That's it. So if you have any part of your roof that at some point is no longer going to keep water out of your living space, it doesn't matter what you spend on the roof. It's bad. So it's one of those things. So you want to make sure you're fully protected, which is why we give such a huge warranty, nationally backed huge warranties. We want to make sure that you're ultimately protected because whoever wants to go through that again, if you go through the headache of trying to do some massive project, and like I said, usually it's because it needs to be done. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody reaches out and says, you know what I'd like to do today? I'm going to stop. I'm not going to buy my boat. I'm going to go ahead and replace my roof. Nobody wants to do it. It just needs to be done.
Yeah.
So when you do that, you want to make sure you get the best one. And most of the time with us, it's the last one you're going to have to worry about. Our products, for the most part, when it comes to roofing, are 50-year products. I'm 44 years old, or just about, sorry. Forget how old I am sometimes. It probably won't need to be replaced in my lifetime. So it's one of those things that when you meet someone who's in their 60s or 70s, like a lot of our homeowners are, they're never going to have to worry about it again. That's what you want.
Yeah. Okay. So what else we got?
I don't know. A big one for me is like bad reviews.
Okay.
And to clarify, not so much having bad reviews, but because you can never please 100% of the people all of the time. You just can't.
Agreed.
There's always going to be some people that are standouts, and there's some people going to have a bad experience because they were maybe something else was going on in their life and they took it out on you. It just happens. My thing, and this is anything, and even as a consumer for myself, I've always looked at when a company has a bad review, how do they respond to it?
Oh, agreed.
So if you get let's say you get a 1-star review on something like a toaster. So something simple that everybody buys, they're not very expensive. I always look at, hey, how many bad reviews did this get? And was it product related? Was it customer service related? Was it literally outlandish? Like I got it home and it was the wrong color, something silly like that. And then see how that company replies to it. I got tires recently on the work van. I'm not even going to say where they were because I don't believe in spreading bad stuff. I was not happy at all. I gave a 1-star review because I sat there and watched multiple people come eat. And even though I had an appointment, I was there for 2.5 hours, I think. And then an hour and a half in, I realized that the guy that was supposed to be doing my tires had just gone home. So I'm literally just sitting there for 2.5 hours. That's a long time to wait to get 4 tires replaced. They were not busy. No one else was in the lobby. They were coming in, getting oil changes unscheduled, right? Because they can make money on that. But for me, it was a set thing. It was a whole thing. But gave a 1-star review. They were basically the huge company. If you really think about it, you can probably figure out who it is. A huge company. They replied with, "Sorry about your experience." That was it. And I'm like, to me, that's not even reading my review.
It's not taking ownership for the issue.
Exactly.
There's no breakdown and would you reach out to me? Can we have a private conversation?
Exactly.
Where did we fail?
So I know for us, and on full transparency, we do have some 1-star reviews, and every time we get them, Aaron or someone of upper level would reach out to them and say, I'm sorry about your experience. Can we talk about this? I understand this happened. Can you reach out? We'll make it right. And that's, to me, that speaks volumes more than just having a standard 5-star. It was a great company. Even we want that, obviously, because that helps people understand who we are. But when people deal with adversity, it speaks more to character.
Yeah.
That's how I've always looked at it.
I think communication in regards to reviews is crucial. We always tell people no matter whatever happens, we're always going to make it right. And like bad reviews. So we've done some phenomenal projects for people that gave us 1-star reviews for which would be a $200 issue on a $20,000 project.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, like you said, something else could be going on. That one thing was the only thing they fixated on. So you could do a great job and fail one little itty bitty thing and still get a 1-star review, but it's the pattern of the 1-star reviews that you ultimately want to look at.
Absolutely.
Or even if it's a 2-star review, not everybody's going to be a 5-star company. Everybody's going to have some reviews that aren't perfect. Even if you did a great job for somebody, the one little thing they're going to bring up is not always going to be positive. And we have projects that we do for people that they loved the entire experience. And at the end, we get a 4-star review. And when you ask, why did we get a 4-star review? Their answer is, well, nobody gets 5 stars. So, that's not necessarily a reason for us. We think we did a 5-star job, but in their mind, there's nobody on this planet that can do a 5-star project. So you got 4 stars for what? So yeah,
if you think about it and you break it down like grade school, 5-star obviously is an A+. That's 100%.
Yep.
If you go to 4, you're at 80%. You're barely making a B.
Yeah.
Like just that 1 star, it makes a huge difference to a company.
Yeah.
And again, the pattern of it, like I've seen plenty of contractors, plenty of companies in general for any product, it's just 1 star after 1 star after 1 star. And then if you look at the number that they have as well. So the biggest thing for me is if you have a couple hundred reviews and it's mostly 5 stars, and that's a good solid company. The inverse of that, let's say you have a massive multi-billion-dollar corporation and they have 15,000 reviews and they have a 2.3. That is huge. Like I'll move on to the next.
Yeah.
So you gotta look and kind of take the whole picture. And but yeah, I know recently we've really been working really hard to boost that number because in the past we didn't really focus on it. We just thought, it's a thing. It is what it is. And when you really push hard to give a 5-star review, it's more so than just getting the number up. You actually start to physically be involved with the project more, with the customer more, even more so than we already were, which we were doing a great before. But now that we're like conscious of, we want to make sure that 5-star experience, we've naturally grown as a company without even really trying to make it a forefront thing.
Yeah. Knowing at the end of the project, you're going to go to somebody and you're going to go, hey, like we feel that we did 5 stars. We felt like, the entire project went well. And, we're expecting a 5-star. Do you feel like you were given a 5-star experience? Knowing going into it that that's the end goal, that we, not only wanted them to be satisfied, but we also want them to feel confident when they give a 5-star review. That's always in the back of your mind. And every interaction you have and every single person in the company realistically is going to have that same kind of mentality of like, I'm here to give you a 5-star experience. That's huge.
Yeah.
So
it just makes you aware of it. Like you said, taking ownership of it.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Yeah. So what if, Keith, what if I ask you, I'm the consumer and I like your price, I like your product, I like your warranty, I like your payment breakdown, you're not asking for cash, your reviews are pretty good. But then I go, okay, can I, before I sign, can I see your proof of insurance and your license? Okay. A good contractor is going to say,
oh, certainly. I can certainly provide that to you.
Yeah.
In fact, we actually have our license number right on the second page. That way the customer can look it right up while we're right there. And we have no problems as far as even sending them a PDF file if they want it or showing them a physical copy. It's no problem there.
Yep.
Because another thing too is getting permits.
Yeah.
You're going to need that business license to get the permit itself. And there's been a lot of times where I tell the customer, hey, we'll take care of the permits. We'll get the town or the county permits. And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. You're the first one to even bring that up.
You don't really need permits though.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
no,
Talk about red
no.
flags. If the contractor looks at you and acts like that, it's like, you don't need them. Don't worry about it.
Now, I mean, permits are they're gonna drag this whole process out for weeks, months, even.
Or we'll come in on Saturday. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. We can probably knock it out this Saturday. Yeah.
So in this area, like I assume most of our listeners are in the Sussex County, Comico County, like the beachy towns. We all know there's like Rehoboth, Dewey, Ocean City, like the big townships, so to speak. Pretty much everything you do there needs a permit.
Yeah.
So in the past, Ocean City is a big one because obviously they're very strict. They maintain the quality of life and the quality of the communities there. They're really, really hard on contractors for a reason. They want to make sure you get a reputable company in there. With them, I've seen so many, and not only in this profession, this industry, but my previous job in different home improvement industries. People would be like, well, the guy said he would come in on Saturday. I'm like, first off, Ocean City 100% needs a permit.
Yeah.
The last job I was in was literally foundation repair. So lifting homes out of the ground that were sinking. It's like, you mean to tell me you don't think that doing that kind of level of work or replacing a roof or something massive, building a porch, you don't think that need a permit for that? Like, I mean, it should be a huge red flag.
Massive.
And it's something that, another thing that just to kind of build on that, we as a company, we take care of all that. So most of the time when I start bringing up permits and plans, especially for decks, screen porches, things like that, I'll start bringing up the permit and the town permit and the county and all that. Homeowner instantly starts saying something like, oh, do I need to get that? What do I need for that? And I said, no. And I make a joke about it. I'm like, this is, I don't know, this might get me in trouble, but I tell people, I'm like, look, you have two jobs. You pick a color and you pay. That's it. You don't have to worry about anything else.
That's a good way of putting it.
I like it. It's kind of, it rolls off the tongue nice. And it's literally what the homeowner does. They pick a color and they pay. We try to make it as painless as possible. You should not have to be involved with any kind of bureaucracy, anything.
Yeah. We're going to get your permits. We're going to get your HOA approvals, your property manager approvals. More specifically, some of the towns have historic preservation societies or committees. We're going to submit all the paperwork to them. We're going to go to the actual hearings to make sure that your project gets approved. When you get in the process of doing that, when you have the people to actually do that, you can kind of keep your project on track where it doesn't get pushed for months and months and months. Some things are out of our hands, but obviously we have the experience. We go into every single project knowing that, you're going to need a permit. In most towns in the entire state of Delaware, all of Maryland, if you live inside of town limits, you're going to need a permit for almost everything you touch. I mean, if you're going to do some landscaping, not really. But almost anything, with the exception of like some kind of emergency repairs, are going to require a permit. County's a little bit different. Me personally, I think our actual county, Sussex County, is a little bit behind as far as like what requires a permit and what doesn't. As far as what requires actual plans and plan review and inspections, I think there's a lot to be improved there. For instance, I can build a deck under 30 inches and it doesn't require an inspection outside of the final inspection. 30 inches is, so the desk that's in front of us, if you have a desk near you, go stand on your desk, get near the edge and step off. That's a pretty big step.
Don't actually do that.
Yeah. But like, I can build a $40,000 deck that's under 30 inches, and I don't require any sort of inspections in regards to make sure the footers are the proper depth, to make sure they're the right size. They're not going to look at the lumber as far as like to make sure all my framing fasteners are in place. They don't require railings under 30 inches. So like, it's all these things. It's like, I can't imagine doing some of these projects without having, a licensed professional to come and actually inspect the work. And we deal with it so many times where people have projects done and things fail so prematurely, and a simple inspection and permit on the front end would have solved all that.
Yep.
So
checks and balances too. You don't want somebody running roughshod on your property doing whatever they feel like.
Yep.
And again, most homeowners, they don't have experience in this. That's why they're hiring someone. Yep. So if you feel confident in the company that you're using and they go get a permit, then you also have a third party, the county, the city, whoever, coming in and saying, they're doing a good job. So it's just, again, building trust, building more peace of mind for you.
Yep. Agreed. Same thing with, there's certain things as we, as a kind of a residential building contractor, we don't have the ability to pull permits or anything or get inspections for things like electrical and plumbing. You actually have to have electrical license, plumbing license to be able to pull those license and inspections. So if your contractor's doing all his own electrical and doing all his own plumbing and all that stuff, and none of that's getting inspected. That's not part of your normal permit inspection. Only a licensed electrician, a licensed plumber can do all that stuff. So just keep that in mind if you build anything with electrical or plumbing. So let's see, what else?
I like your obvious one on the when we were talking about the other day. You're like, the contractor is under the influence. you laugh at it, but it happens.
Yeah.
And it's obviously we have a little bit of an epidemic here in the country now. It's not necessarily you're going to smell booze on them, but you can tell when someone's acting off. They may be under the influence of something else that doesn't necessarily have a smell.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you're like, if they're acting weird, your primal instincts, your what they call lizard brain. If you're getting hairs on the back of your neck standing up, go with your gut.
Yeah.
Because people that are on the initial meeting, if they're not fully with it, they're probably going to miss details. And then if you do hire them, because let's say they are cheap and that's your primary reason for going with them, what are they going to be like on the crew? Like if their first person, their face of their company shows up and he's not 100%.
Yeah.
How good of people are they really going to attract to that company?
Well, let's break it down even further. This specific instance you're talking about, we happen to be on a job site where another contractor was hired to do work, not something we were involved in, but we happened to be there. We, kind of give a little kind of like, that's the area over there, more so to just to kind of be helpful. But you walk near the one of the vehicles that happen to be on site, and you can smell the wacky tobacco pretty strongly. So we don't really have any skin in the game. We can't necessarily say anything. I know that it's like a weird thing in our society where it's kind of legal, it's kind of not legal. But like in situations like that, you think you might be hiring a reputable contractor, but they show up and you don't know who their guys are, what their guys are doing on a daily basis. So, so being under the influence, whether it be the wacky tobacco, whether it be, any other recreational drug of choice or alcohol.
Alcohol at 9 a.m. should be a red flag for anybody. Somebody shows up and they reek a beer and it's 9 a.m. That's going to be a problem.
It's frowned upon.
When you're in this industry long enough, you kind of know, you can see the signs of people that have been doing this a very long time. The kind of the black cloud that's over the construction industry is like a lot of people became contractors because they couldn't be anything else. They had they're addicts of some sorts, they're alcoholics, or they've got a record of some sort. So, a contracting business is a legit business. Very, very successful businessmen have gone into the contracting space. But that kind of black cloud still hangs there. It's never really going to go away. But again, a lot of these red flags we're talking about is kind of the things that you as the consumer, if you pay attention to these red flags, that we can kind of get rid of that cloud a little bit. But yeah, under the influence, it's something you see or deal with more often than you would expect.
I think the construction industry as a whole, like a lot of other industries throughout our history as Americans, as just humans, it's evolved. So it used to be where a guy showing up in yesterday's clothes, unshaven, kind of ratty looking, in a truck that had no name or anything on it. Like he could be a good contractor, and those people still exist. I'm going to be honest. But I think this industry has become way more professional. Whereas it's when you have a company show up and they're lettered and they're proud to show their name of their company. Delaware, for instance, is strange. You could run a company in the ground and start a new company that same day. Just go get a new business license. So you really have to look out for things like this. It really, and it happens a lot, especially in the construction industry.
Well, we run the joke, and I think it was Kara. We were talking to you. You can't see Kara; she's behind all the equipment here.
Thanks, Kara.
But Kara, wasn't it you that I was talking about? If you wanted to be a contractor, we could go online and I could make you a contractor in 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and you would have your temporary license. You could legally operate your company from that point moving forward. So unfortunately, Delaware is way, way behind in regards to contractor license. They did put some other things in place, which is just kind of like a secondary $200 license. But even that is like, there's so many ways to get around that. It's not really another checks and balances, honestly. So yeah. So
yeah, it's funny because we're laughing because we all know somebody that's done that, and
I could tell you 10 people right now without even thinking too hard about who operate very similar to that. And these are successful people. They're not bad people,
right?
But unfortunately, like, these guys have the mentality of like, if I don't have to go through that, there's no reason for me.
And it goes back to like what I was saying earlier too. Like there's really good contractors that aren't so good business people.
Yeah.
And it's those people could be phenomenal carpenters or plumbers or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're probably going to, the expression rob Peter to pay Paul. So they're going to get 2/3 into the project and maybe they're out of money and they're going to come to you and say, hey, I can't really finish, but I need more money.
Yeah.
That all goes back to the red flags we were talking about earlier about down payments and portioning out your money.
Yeah.
You really, someone that's reputable, that has the forethought to have a marketing plan and to have like lettered shirts. I mean, you can see we're all wearing the same shirts. Our trucks and our vans and everything all have our company name, logo, numbers on them. Like it's, we joke that it's like, oh, we can't speed because we're driving a billboard. So I mean, if you get road rage at somebody,
Appreciate
they're like, they're right there on the side and they're like, hey, I'm just going to call this number and rat them out.
Yeah.
But it's checks and balances. It keeps us accountable for who we are. And it just makes sure that we know we're giving a good service throughout, even not just the finished product, but the entire pro exteriors experience.
Yeah.
That it's something you want. And professionalism really goes a long way. You shouldn't have to worry about, okay, my stock guy, my money manager, he's the only one I care about looking professional. No, everyone that you interact with should be that same level of professionalism. You should hold yourself to a higher standard.
Yeah, I agree. So one last one we'll kind of bring up, and then I think we'll kind of put this baby to bed. What if you are researching your contractor? He's got, good reviews, decent reviews. He's willing to provide references. He's willing to provide a license and insurance, and he's not asking for too much money down. And his contract is, fairly well worded. And, he's willing to deal with permits. He's, willing to deal almost everything. But when you go and research him online, you see that at one point he was operating under a different company name. So I'll just say, and I'll let you guys kind of answer, this can be a red flag, but it is not always a red flag. So, Keith, I'll let you start it. Why is it a red flag if you do research and somebody has changed their business name once, twice? If a lot of the research you do, you pull up the actual owner's name, or you pull up, it comes up under a different company name.
I mean, it could be a red flag because, maybe they had some problems, some legal issues, money issues. Yeah. Maybe they had some problems with past projects. Yeah. But it also doesn't necessarily always mean that it's a red flag as well. Take us, for example.
Yeah.
You started in 2005 as Empire Construction.
Nope. I started in 2005 as ACR Construction.
ACR Construction.
I was really creative back then. And I was like, what is the name that everybody's going to know me as? And I was like, let me just use my initials because nobody's going to think about that. So, yeah.
And then every truck on the road is 3 guys' initials.
Yeah. So when you look at people's company names, if it's like, construction, good chance it's the owner's initials. So, but yeah, so we changed our name originally. We started off as ACR Constructor. At some point we went to Empire Construction Group, only because that's when I started to really take my company as a true business. And I was like, I'm going to grow this thing. I'm going to make it into a legit company, and it's going to grow, and we're going to have divisions and all this stuff. So we did rebrand into Empire Construction Group. You'll still see that name on every one of our trucks. It still says Empire Construction Group. It might be in smaller letters, but it's still on there. It
comes up when you call too. Sometimes
it does come up when you call. In fact, I talked to somebody yesterday. I'm like, I got a call in regards to you, but the company name they were giving me wasn't your company name. And that's why. So we do operate under Pro Exteriors as one of the divisions of Empire Construction Group. So you will see both. Again, some people may look at that as a red flag. But the honest answer is like, I have always planned on Empire Construction Group being a larger thing. It's always going to be, multiple brands, multiple companies underneath of that main umbrella corporation. So again, not always a red flag.
No.
Sometimes a red flag. So,
yeah. So, sometimes what I always tell people is it's a flashy brand name. It's a cool brand name. It's a cool logo. It's, I mean, like Philip Morris is a big one. A lot of people know it. Philip Morris has Marlboro cigarettes and Kraft cheese, and like there's a reason why they have an umbrella company.
Yeah.
And then they have all these other brand names underneath it. It's the same principle.
Yep.
And what I used to do, I don't do it so much anymore because it's easy just to explain it's a brand name. But what I used to tell people is he wanted a construction empire, which is why he named that. And you wouldn't call somebody to redo your kitchen or bathroom if exteriors was in their name. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So when those divisions eventually take off, you're going to have a different brand for that because you wouldn't want to call an exteriors company who's doing a roof on Monday to do your bathroom on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It just makes more sense and it makes people feel more comfortable. Right. On the flip side of that, what I've always said is if they have a different business name, keep looking. Because if they're changing businesses every couple of years, there's a good chance they're one of those guys that's a good contractor, good enough, but has no idea how to run a business. So maybe they owe back taxes. Maybe they're running from somebody. I mean, I hate to say it, but legit happens where people are just like, hey, I just don't want to be this business anymore. And they run away from the job that they already took money on. Going back to maybe they took cash on it and they're like, I'm just going to fold this business and keep that money. We have several casinos in this state. Maybe they just took your cash and said, I'm going to make free money with it and then lost. Yeah. And that's a true story. I'm not going to elaborate on that, but it happened.
They could be running from financial issues, a bankruptcy. Right. It could be a partnership that dissolved and he didn't have a choice to change names. It could be a divorce that put him out of business. I mean, there's so many factors that are, I would say, somewhat out of the individual's control that don't necessarily make changing your business name a huge red flag. But there, I would say, would be more reasons that they would be a red flag. Because, once you put all the effort into like really branding yourself as a certain thing, walking away from that is a very, very expensive process. Yeah. To start from square one, to build a brand new brand is a very, very tedious and expensive process. So walking away from a true brand, again, walking away from your initials construction,
yeah, it's a door magnet. You can get a new one.
100%. There's no brand behind that. I was essentially more of a subcontractor back then, and then a lot of guys start the same way. They're subcontractors. They try to build a brand, and it doesn't always work. But yeah, if you have a very good brand, you've spent all the time to kind of go through and build that brand, that name to a certain recognition, and then you walk away. Yeah, I would want to know more.
Something's up.
Yeah, and that's usually at the point where you if you feel like everything else is aligned, if you feel like all the other red flags are taken care of, then that would be the point where I go, okay, I really want to go with you, but I've noticed this one thing. Why did you change names? And then see what they say.
Yeah.
Anybody who changed names for the right reasons, that had a legitimate reason to walk away, usually is more than excited to tell you why. But if they stumble over the words and their story doesn't quite make sense, then it's a red flag.
Yeah. So. And just, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, it's very expensive. It's very tedious to walk away.
Yeah.
If you look at us, literally look at us, we're all wearing bright orange, black. Everything we own is orange and black.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money that goes into that. And that's a brand recognition of
shoes.
Belt, shoe. Belt. So I joke because, Aaron, when he first switched over to the orange polos, we used to wear black and then we had khaki pants. It's very generic. And when we switched over to the orange and black, I was like, wow, that's a bold choice. I love it. I absolutely love the orange. But he bought orange shoes immediately. And I was joking that I was like, there's no way that's necessary. And he immediately got response from it. And he even said, he's like, watch, I'm telling you, people are going to know. It's going to be memorable. So those of you who have met me, those of you who haven't met me, will meet me in the future. When I get out of the van, I'm 6'2" and it's tinted windows. The only thing you see is my feet because I step down, and I wear bright orange shoes because of Aaron. And it's the first thing people notice. And
I love the shoes.
The amount of times people are like, oh my gosh, you're head to toe.
Yeah.
And I get a little bit of a gut, so they don't see the belt right away, but I always point out the belt. So we take it.
You just called yourself out on camera. This is going to be shared.
I'm happy and I'm married, and that's what happens. Everybody that's happy, you gain a little bit of weight.
Feel that deeply.
So the point is, like, I show them the belt. We're very color coordinated, and it's one of those things where we take pride in how we look because it goes back to professionalism. But it's also, that's our brand. That's what we live. Look at it like a professional sports team. Those guys wear their brand, their logo, it's in their blood sometimes. Not so much anymore with sports, but a lot of times back when I was coming up, a guy would get drafted to a team, he would never leave.
Yeah.
And it's a lot different now with free agency and everything, but when you have a guy that's like loyal to something and it's their entire 15 to 20 year career sometimes, that makes a huge difference, and it becomes part of who they are. Whereas us, when we show up, the orange shoes, they just pop. I mean, everybody sees them. I'm absolutely so much so that they're difficult to find. So I bought a new pair before I needed them, if that makes sense. Like I'll constantly just every once in a while pop on Amazon. I'm looking for orange shoes in my size. And then when they came up, I'm like, you know what? I probably have another 6 months to a year on the ones I'm wearing, but let me get them and put them in the closet.
So it's to the point now where anytime I go on Amazon and I'm looking for something, I was like, well, let me just check if they have it in orange. You'll notice that my office chair is orange.
The cup you're drinking out of is
the
orange.
cup I'm drinking. We have matching plates as well. I have orange wristbands for my iWatch. The funny part is I actually don't enjoy the color orange. It's not a favorite color of mine, which is a very common question. It's like, oh, you must really love orange. I don't. But once you commit to something, you commit fully to it.
And nobody else has it.
Nobody else has it.
So it's unique. It's your brand. And there's a really good chance that when people see you're driving around town, they know who you are.
Yeah.
If not now, they will soon, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So even if I don't make a huge impact on people when I meet them for the first time, they very rarely forget the orange.
I'm just glad you didn't go with bright red because, again, going back to the gut, I don't want to look like the Kool-Aid man. It's, that would not be a good day for me. But I wear it well. People tell me I wear it well. When I'm sitting down, it looks worse. But
yeah, okay.
But no, I think we did a good one. It's funny because we were talking about red flags, and I finished off with red shirt. Totally organically, had nothing to do with.
It's weird how that works.
It's weird how it works.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna put this baby to bed. You guys have anything you want to say in closing? Any final remarks? Any final little things you feel like we didn't touch on?
I've had a blast doing this. It's fun. It's I mean, I in previous job I did radio spots and things like that. So this is fun, just sitting here and talking.
So is this your radio voice?
It's my normal voice.
Okay. Do you have a radio voice?
Sound different? I mean, I could do a radio voice if you want.
Okay. And maybe you can do the exit. You want to do the exit in the radio voice? We'll let Keith, you got anything you want to say before we wrap up?
I just want to see this radio voice.
Let's hear it.
Okay. Hey Cole, how should I end it? Like, what do we want to say here?
Well, good question. I could send you the copy for the outro if you wanted.
I can just do my own and then you do it. That's fine.
All right.
You could choose whether or not you want to use it or not. We'll see how good it is.
Yeah.
Put me on the spot. All right. Thank you for tuning in to You Ask the Pros podcast. We've been here today with Aaron Rodgers, Keith Brock, and Brad Woslevek. We appreciate you tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Nicely done.
Zip, zip, zoo.
You got the name wrong, but it's fine.
Okay, so don't use that one, but
obviously some way. All right. Hey, that's a lot of really good stuff. What I'm hearing is ultimately you've got to trust your gut. You got to trust your spidey sense. Was it lizard brain, Brad? Did you say lizard brain?
Yeah, that's like I said, I listen to a lot of audiobooks when I'm driving around. We drive a lot, and it's like spy novels. The guys talk about how you can tell someone's watching you because the back of your head kind of tingles, and he just calls it lizard brain. So
yeah, that's a newt one for me. Well, Brad, Keith, thank you both for sharing your experiences and your knowledge with us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a good time.
All right, well, that is all we have today on the You Ask the Pros Answer podcast. Before we go, though, we want to hear from you. What are some questions that you have that are related to home exterior remodeling, maybe the process involved, the options that are out there? If you have any questions, would you please send them to us at info@askproexteriors.com and simply place You Ask in the subject line there. Remember, if you are facing an upcoming home project, we hope this episode empowered you to tackle it with confidence. Remember, knowledge is power, and a little bit of research can go a long way. Until next time, happy homeowning. All right, that's all right.
Afternoon drive.
The You Ask the Pros Answer podcast is produced in-house by the Pro Exteriors team. Pro Exteriors is the exterior contracting division of Empire Construction Group, LLC. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. For more answers to your questions, please subscribe to this channel and podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Do you have an upcoming home remodeling project? Find more answers to your questions at askproexteriors.com.
Outlandish.